There is no failure, just steps to success. Those are the words of the two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo after being upset by the Miami Heat. And for a man that we thought could do it all, a poet is something we have to add to the list. Well, he also has to work on his free throw shooting, right? But we're here today and it's draft day. The NFL draft starts tonight. One of the most exciting times of the year for all of us sports fans, and I think just in general, all around the world. And we're here today to deliver our third and final mock draft of this off season. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host and draft partner, Bakari Steve. How you feeling on this Thursday morning?
I feel terrible. The Cavs are eliminated from the playoffs. I have no will to watch basketball anymore. So here we are doing the mock draft.
This is your early reminder that if you do enjoy what you're seeing or hearing, go ahead and support us down below as the channel's been growing, and we can't thank you guys enough for that. We really appreciate any and all support. But go ahead and follow us on all of our socials on your screen now if you do have the chance. And without further ado, we have some quick news to cover first, especially the crazy game, the individual performance last night by Jimmy Butler. And we also have a history-breaking moment for the TAP Player of the Week. This is the Anomaly Podcast. Let's get into some of the news, and we're going to get into that history. We're going to start here with, again, the NFL Draft starts tonight. My only question to you is, how far into the draft are you going to watch? First round, second round, day 3, or just like the first 2 picks?
Yeah, I watched the first pick, and I have a general idea of it. No, I'm kidding. I usually watch the first round pretty much in its entirety. Sometimes I might stop 2 picks before pick 29 or whatever. But I'll usually have it on, whether I'm doing something in the back or have it on in the background, whether I'm doing something or if I'm actually sitting there watching each individual pick with, actual intent. Yeah.
As Browns fans, any chance we trade up into this first round?
No, I don't. I don't see it. I mean, yeah, let's give Deshaun Watson for the first pick.
Right?
Let's take Will Anderson. No, but
yeah, that would be a Browns thing to do, without a doubt. But moving over to Jimmy Butler, the crazy performance he had last night, including the shot you see on your screen, that shot where he caught it from the inbound, and he threw it up, and he made it to send that game to overtime, where the Heat took over. But Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, they became only the 4th, 8th seed in NBA history to upset a number 1 seed. The most recent one I can think of is that Memphis Grizzlies team to the Spurs team in 2012 with that grit and grind Grizzlies team. But Jimmy Butler, another great performance. So far, this is one of the best playoff runs we've seen. It's only the first round.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, we had it being a sweep for the Bucks. If anything, a gentleman's sweep for the Bucks, not a gentleman's sweep for the 8th seed. And yeah, Giannis missed 2 games there, but he hasn't looked particularly good in these last 2 games, especially from the free throw line. Obviously, the biggest mistake here was letting Jimmy even touch the ball for this final shot, and you see he was able to put them away in overtime.
Yeah.
So.
What is Pat Connaughton doing on this play here?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Mike's
playing Twister when he needs to be playing defense.
Yeah.
Right? But Jimmy Butler, I mean, he's having a historic playoff series, at least a playoff run so far. We'll see if he can keep that up against Josh Hart and that apparently top-tier defense in New York. As they made the Cavs look like a high school team.
The hater in me says the Heat are going to get swept, and Jalen Brunson is going to look like Michael Jordan.
He might.
But going back to this series, Mike Budenholzer needs to be fired. Eric Spoelstra, coach circles around him. So.
No, absolutely. I mean, Eric Spoelstra, again, another year where he proves he's one of the best coaches in the league, as one of his top scorers, Tyler Hero's out, as well as Victor Oladipo, who wasn't a pivotal piece, but he's definitely a veteran that you want that has some playoff experience, and the Heat are still getting it done without both of those guys in their rotation, as the rotation's already small enough.
Right.
But moving over, just a general look at the updated playoff bracket in the NBA. The Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets are going to match up. We talked about that on Tuesday, as well as a lot of these second-round matchups. So if you missed that, go ahead and check out Tuesday's show. But the Miami Heat and the Knicks both advanced last night. Just very quickly, who do you have in that series? As it's going to be a very grit and grind series like the Cavs and Knicks.
I mean, only because I've watched New York very, very closely these last 5 games. I think New York wins because New York has the depth to win, and they are physical. They have that dual positivity right there. But I mean, we just saw Jimmy Butler beat an all-time Bucks team by himself, so nothing's out of the question for Jimmy. But I'll take the Knicks in 7 if I had to put a stamp on it.
Yeah, I mean, the second ever podcast, or I want to say it was from the video that we said what we've learned 1 month in. It's a podcast I released months ago, right at the start of this NBA season. I said this was the best Bucks team of all time. I kept that statement, to me, was true the entire season. And they just had some injury issues from the best player in the league, Giannis, and they fell short to an historic playoff performances by Jimmy Butler, as we mentioned. So it is hard to go against the Heat, but I think you're right. I think the Knicks are going to take this one, and what a crazy time that would be for Spike Lee in New York.
Yeah.
But which Game 6, as we have Atlanta making things interesting in Boston there, as Boston's doing their best, do what they do best, and that's to give hope to these other teams and choke in games that they're not supposed to. Boston and Atlanta have a Game 6. Memphis won last night. They're making that series interesting, as well as the Kings and Warriors, who the Warriors finally won a road game. A huge part of that's due to De'Aaron Fox's fractured hand. But which Game 6 are you looking forward to most here going forward, as we don't have any games today? I think we have one today.
Yeah, the Trae Young hater in me wants to see the Celtics put this series away. He had a fluke 3-point shot. I'll give him
that was an amazing shot.
Yeah, I'll give him his flowers. He played a great game that game too. But I do want to see the Celtics put away the Hawks, and I do want to see the Lakers put away Memphis. So I think those are two games.
Absolutely. I think the Sacramento series is unfortunately probably wrapped up now, as crazy as that sounds. But with Golden State going back home, and we don't know what's going to go on with De'Aaron Fox's hand, as his stat line was okay, but his production, it was just you could see there was limitations to his game there in Game 5, and Golden State took advantage. But I think the game I'm looking forward to most is that Lakers and Memphis game, as Ja is seemingly only getting healthier, and as we saw last game, if Desmond Bain can get going, this Lakers team probably doesn't have a chance. But moving over to just a quick announcement here. Over the last week on our Instagram page, we've been hosting a fan-led mock draft. We've been putting up tons of polls, and you guys have voted for each of the first round picks, and it's now official. The draft is set, the draft order for you guys, and that will be up later today, probably when we post the rest of our stuff, because we have 3 posts coming today over on Instagram. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and check out that. But that's going to be it, as thank you to everyone who's participated to this point. But moving over, history-breaking moment for this podcast and the Tap Player of the Week. Go ahead and tell us who the Tap Player of the Week is.
So the Tap Player of the Week this week, it's historic because this week it's not one player, it is 2 players. And those 2 players are Devin Booker and Jimmy Butler. The numbers that these 2 guys put up, obviously Jimmy his probably meant more in significance because he is the 8th seed and just knocked out the first seeded Bucks in 5 games. He averaged 43, 7, and 3 pretty much, and they didn't lose in this past week. But would you guys believe me if I told you that Devin Booker averaged 41, 8, and 7 pretty much for the most part? Devin Booker is the reason that this Suns team that would be in close games with the Clippers teams was able to put away these teams either in the 3rd or the 4th quarter. These 2 guys, they both played amazing this past week. I felt that, whenever you have 2 players averaging 40 in the same week, it's kind of hard to just give it to one or the other. So I gave it to both of these guys. Well-deserved. Both pulled out their series and on to the next round. So
yeah, I mean, both of these guys had 2 40-point performances in the last week alone, right? And obviously, if they're averaging 40, that makes sense. But still crazy performances, especially in the playoffs. And a 6-0 total record between the both of these guys. So I'm not mad at the co-MVP, or the co-player of the week, rather. But we're moving over here to the mock draft. This is the last and final one of the season. You guys won't have another one of these NFL ones for a year, right? With the timeline, right? But we're here today to give our final mock draft. No trades, we decided. No trades. Yeah. We're just going to go with the flow, as a lot of crazy things can happen. DeAndre Hopkins might get traded tonight. Lamar Jackson might get traded tonight. A lot of crazy things can happen. So we're just going to stick with the regular draft order. Go ahead and kick us off with your first pick, as you have the odds yet again. I'll have the evens. Yeah,
so with the first pick, I decided to take Bryce Young again. I think this is pretty much the pick, unless you're a Reddit user and saw Will Levis said he was going number 1. But I think this is pretty much the pick that Carolina is pretty much all but locked in. I'd be shocked if they took anybody else. And it's, especially with the surprising CJ Stroud slip. So Bryce Young goes first.
Yeah, I think in 2 of these mock drafts that we've had, Bryce Young has been the first pick, the last 2. But to me, I mean, he has the 4 Ps we always talk about here on this podcast. He has great accuracy, decision making. To me, he reminds me of a Russell Wilson or like a Drew Brees, right? I would say probably more Russell Wilson as he's Russell Wilson after all is a bit more of an athletic Drew Brees. But both of those guys is a combination of the two. Bryce Young, to me, we'll talk about it later, but I think he can probably be the guy that we remember from this draft class.
Yeah, absolutely.
But moving over to the number 2 pick, no surprise here, maybe a surprise, right? If compared to our mock drafts in the past, where we've had either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, but with all the reports recently, we're going to take Will Anderson here for the Houston Texans at 2. DeMeco Ryans, we know he was a great defender in his time in the league for a decade, right here for the Texans, and now he's the head coach, and now he can get someone that reminds him of himself. He can get Will Anderson a scheme fit. He's an all-pro talent. He's right off the bat, he's gonna have great size, great strength, great speed off the edge. He's the complete package off the edge. And I've never seen a player in college more unblocked than him, especially at his caliber of a talent and player, right? But I guess the only dislikes is he doesn't have a set position. You want him to come off the edge, but in some cases when you're drafting a guy at as high as 2. For a guy that, it's not always the best case when he doesn't have a set position, right? Yeah. Sometimes he can go outside linebacker off the edge, which, again, it's not the best, it's not the worst thing to have, versatility, but sometimes you just want a set position in a player you're drafting at the number 2 position, right? But Will Anderson, to me, I've said it on the podcast before, he's going to be top 10. He's going to be a top 10 edge rusher for the next decade. That's including this season. I believe he's arguably the best player in this class.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. And with the 3rd pick, I have Tyree Wilson going. When I thought about this, a little bit after we did the draft, I guess it made a little bit of sense for the Cardinals to take an offensive lineman here. Get protection for Kyler when he comes back. But I decided to. My thought process in taking Tyree Wilson is that they weren't able to get Will Anderson, and that's who they really wanted. This is a team that. It's not like they're in a we need talent mode. So they're going to go and they're going to take who they think, may be the best available player or at a certain position that they need. And, obviously just because Will Anderson goes doesn't mean that they, all of a sudden have magical edge rushers on their team. Tyree Wilson, he gives them just that. He's tall. He has a really good straight arm rush. He can really get to the quarterback. He's really mobile for his size and everything. So Tyree Wilson, maybe it's a step below Will Anderson, but it still fills a need that the Cardinals have at that edge rusher position, especially after some of the key pieces that they lost, including J.J. Watt's retirement last year, this offseason. Yeah. But Tyree Wilson is able to fill a little bit of that hole that they're missing on that defensive line.
Yeah, for me, for a team that just lost Zach Allen, who's very underrated in the league. He had double-digit sacks last season, and a team that also just lost J.J. Watt to retirement. This team has a hole on that D-line, and some would argue Tyree Wilson is better than Will Anderson. So I think it's a can't-miss pick here for Arizona as they take the best edge rusher available. For the number 4 pick, the Colts, they're going to get the guy they've wanted this entire draft process, and that is C.J. Stroud. A guy that has great accuracy, decision-making. He gets through the progressions probably the best out of any quarterback in this draft. I will say his arm strength isn't there like a Will Levis, but C.J. Stroud, he still has plenty of arm on him going forward. This Colts team is ready to compete, and I think C.J. Stroud might be the most pro-ready quarterback as of today. That's of argument with Bryce Young, but C.J. Stroud, he showed us a lot here late in that college football playoff against Georgia as he carried us to the end of that game when our kicker just decided he was like LeBron. He saw 3 field goal posts, right? And he, instead of aiming for the middle, that kicker aimed for the left. But C.J. Stroud, he's going to be the guy for Indy going forward. And what more of a Houston Texans move than to pass on a quarterback that you need to give them to the divisional rival like Indy, who gets their guy here as C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, and especially with all these reports about C.J., like I've seen, people saying C.J. goes as far as to like the Titans at 11. They have him falling.
It's because of that S2 cognitive test. And I don't know if you read up on it, but the cognitive test is basically just how fast can you make decisions and accurately.
Right. Yeah, and he scored an 18th percentile, which, Bryce Young, I think, had a 98% test score. So, obviously, that plays a part in it. But I mean, it's not like this guy is somebody who was a pick magnet in college, which is baffling to me because if he, it's not like he threw, 25 picks in college. This is somebody who, for the most part, always made good decisions on the field. And, like you said, college football playoff game proved that. I don't, it would be one thing if it was reflective of his play last year, but I don't think, I think something may have went on, but who knows? Maybe he just isn't, as that smart. But, yeah, I mean, C.J. Stroud to the Colts, I like that pick. And with my 5th pick, I have Jalen Carter going to Seattle. We all know about the off-the-field troubles that Jalen Carter, has, that he's had since the end of the college season. At one point in time, Jalen Carter was, who everybody thought would be going first over Will Anderson, especially before this past season. But, the question about his motor, if he can solve his motor, if he can have his motor run high enough, this guy is really good. He's really strong. He's really mobile for his size. He's 6'3", like 315 pounds. He has good balance. Obviously, we know about the questions off the field, but on the field, he could be a really, really good talent, a really good defensive tackle for any team that takes him, and especially for the Seahawks. I think if he's in the right situation, right scenario where he has vets and a coach that's willing to work and gain his trust, I think he can kill in Seattle.
Yeah, you just have to see how he acts, on the field and off the field, and if he's going to mature going into the league, right? But moving over to the number 6 pick, we're going to fill a big hole here for the Detroit Lions, as they did bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but they did at the same time lose Jeff Okudah. Not that they're on the same tier of player, hear me out, right? But they're going to get a big corner filled here, right? And it's really a 1A, 1B class where you have Devin Witherspoon on one hand and Christian Gonzalez on the other. It's all of who do you depend, or who do you prefer, rather. Not depend on, but who do you prefer? I personally prefer Devin Witherspoon in this class. But I think the Lions are going to go off of potential, and they're going to take Christian Gonzalez here, who's coming off of a breakout year over at Oregon. He's got the highest ceiling, I believe, out of any quarter in this class. He has some technical flaws, but I think he touched up a lot of those last season in his senior year at Oregon. He's the biggest ball hawk in this class, and he's a guy that I believe Dan Campbell would love on his defense, and they're going to get him here. Christian Gonzalez is going to fill a role over there, or fill a big hole in Detroit.
Yeah, and like you said, it's who you rather pick, and I think Christian Gonzalez is a good pick there, but just like Devon Witherspoon would have been a good pick there either way. But with my 7th pick, the Raiders pick, I decided to take Anthony Richardson here. It could be a surprise. The Raiders do have Jimmy. They went and got him this offseason. But I think this would be the perfect situation for Anthony Richardson to come in and sit behind a vet for a year. Learn what it takes to be an NFL-ready quarterback. He obviously has all the potential, all the physical skills. He, really good height, really good speed. But like you said about his play in college, with you being a Gators fan, he makes the easy plays look hard and the hard plays look easy. He has a cannon of an arm. His decision-making sometimes isn't the best, but I think if you can sit behind a pro like Jimmy, this team still has, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow. They lost
Darren Waller.
Yeah, they lost Darren Waller, but who knows? Maybe they go and draft a tight end in the second round, or later in the draft. Who knows? They could always add pieces, but I think this would be the perfect situation for Anthony Richardson. He could come in, sit behind Jimmy. Who knows? Maybe Jimmy doesn't finish out the year if they have a bad enough record. Maybe he's able to start the last 4 games of the season or whatever, see what he has in the tank. But I think Anthony Richardson, or I think the Raiders get a future quarterback in Anthony Richardson to kind of mold him.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there with my famous quote of Anthony Richardson, or my analysis, I guess, of AR-15. But to me, if there's a top quarterback in this class that needs to sit, the quarterback that needs to sit the most for a year or at least half a season is Anthony Richardson. And there's no better bridge quarterback in the NFL than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's done it his entire career, and he is taken over for Alex Smith as that bridge guy in the NFL, right? But Anthony Richardson, effortless thrower. I've seen him make so many crazy plays. After that Utah game in week 1, we thought that, we went from unranked to number 12. That's as much of an impact as Anthony Richardson had on the Gators in that first game. And he showed the world, I'm here, right? I'm going to be the guy going forward. But, the Gators, we were not a well-built team, and we fell out of the rankings faster than the Cavs fell out of the playoffs, right? But Anthony Richardson, great pick here, I think, to the Raiders, as they have been looking for a guy, and you can't go parallel from Derek Carr to Jimmy G and expect to be a Super Bowl contender. They shoot for the fences and get AR-15. With the number 8 pick here, I do have Devon Witherspoon going here to the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, they need defensive back help. I know they just traded for Jeff Okudah, and hey, maybe a change of scenery can be everything for a guy like Okudah, who was formerly a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. But they get Devon Witherspoon here, the most complete corner, most pro-ready corner to me right now. He plays a lot like Denzel Ward, in my opinion. He's fun, he's lengthy, he's a playmaker. He's very consistent, too. He doesn't commit a lot of penalties. And Devon Witherspoon, I think going to Atlanta, next to A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates in that defensive backfield, that's going to be dangerous for Atlanta going forward.
Yeah, Atlanta is definitely building a scary defense. If only they had maybe Desmond Ridder is him, and we just don't know it yet.
Right.
So Atlanta could be scary. Sooner rather than later, especially with the defense they're building. And with the 9th pick, I have the Chicago Bears taking Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the. Here we go. I have them taking him. This is somebody who they need a lineman. They need somebody to protect Justin Fields. He does just that. He's a great pass protector. Runs about 6'4", 315 again. He's a big guy. He's highly mobile, highly athletic for his size. And the best thing about him is he's had great production over multiple seasons during college. This isn't somebody who just didn't play and then had one good season and now he's in the draft. This is somebody who played multiple seasons and did great in all of those seasons. This is somebody who you could take, and they have a large body of work that says, hey, I'm a consistent pass protector. I can, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, which he doesn't have that many. You can pretty much move him most places on the line. This is somebody that Chicago needs, especially if they want to develop Justin Fields into that franchise quarterback they believe he can be.
I think that's the biggest thing here with Chicago is that they need offensive line help, right? And Peter Skoronski can do everything on the offensive line. Maybe not center, but he can move from guard to tackle and tackle to guard. So it brings them a lot of versatility there on the O-line for Justin Fields. But moving over to the 10th pick, would you believe me if I said that a player that did not start a single collegiate football game is getting picked with the number 10 pick? I understand it sounds crazy, but in this mock draft with no trades, I've had this Eagles team shooting for upside in the 2 mock drafts prior, and they went with Nolan Smith both times, in my opinion, right? But this time, my opinion just changed, and I think they're going to go with Luke Van Ness here, a guy out of Iowa who's 6'5", 270, comes off the edge. He uses his speed and power very well, but again, he's going to a team where the Eagles have been shown that they can develop, especially the trenches, throughout the years, right? They've always had good O-lines, good D-lines, and they're going to get another project here at number 10. He's a raw talent, Luke Van Ness. I will say he doesn't have as many counters that you would like to have, but if he can go to Philly and sit behind Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham in their, farewell tour next year, that's going to do nothing but wonders for Luke Van Ness going forward. And Philly, they keep rebuilding this offensive line and D-line, and they're going to continue to get another guy here that can help them for the future.
Yeah. We've had a lot of different scenarios for Philly, and like you said, in these past 2 mock drafts, and there are even reports as early as late last night saying Bijan Robinson's even a possibility for them at 10,
which I thought about.
Yeah.
I thought about Bijan Robinson at 10, but I just figured in today's age, you can't take a running back at 10, right?
Yeah.
You cannot take a running back at 10 unless his name is Saquon Barkley. But moving over to the Titans, it's the pick that I think we've had set in stone for all 3 mock drafts.
Yeah, and it's Will Levis. Big surprise there. This is there isn't a change in our QB list, maybe in change in some of the teams they go to, but as far as the order that we've had them ever since that second mock draft, it's been pretty. I mean, Will Levis has been been to the Titans, I think, every time.
Every single time.
Yeah. Obviously, we know about his strong arm. His great size, great mobility. The thing about Will Levis is can he be a franchise QB? Can he be a franchise changer? Obviously, the Titans drafted Malik Willis, so he'll have to compete there. should be an easy competition for him. Because I could go and throw dirt at the ground and be better than Malik Willis in the NFL. But Will Levis. The thing about him is, he'll play through injury, but he didn't really elevate the team last year, and that was, one of the biggest questions is, he didn't really contribute to, a game-changing season. That'll probably be the question in NFL. In reality, I think he should, as well as Anthony Richardson, I think he should probably sit a year, which he will, especially if he'll be behind Ryan Tannehill. But who knows? Maybe they say, we're going to throw you into the fire. We're going to get rid of Ryan Tannehill now in the draft and do something crazy. Obviously we don't know. We don't know. There's been crazy things that happen in the NFL, but Will Levis goes here. Big, no surprise there.
Yeah, I think Will Levis, for me, my pro comp for him is, coincidentally, Ryan Tannehill. I've said that a couple times here on this podcast. And Will Levis, so many ball security problems and issues and questions with him. Can he take care of the ball? I know he had a better junior year than senior year in college. So I think we would be looking at him differently if he came out last year than this year. But Will Levis, he did have a subpar season, even though that Kentucky team at one point was a top 10 ranked team, I believe, in college football. But a lot of questions there with Will Levis, and it just adds to the questions in that QB room for Tennessee. But for a team like Tennessee, why not shoot for the fences? Maybe you can strike gold there with Will Levis. He's a gunslinger for sure. But moving over to the number 12 pick, where the Texans in this mock draft have already taken Will Anderson. So they got a talented defensive player, maybe their captain going forward. We're going to go out here and we're going to help the quarterback, whether if it's Davis Mills next year or if this team is bad and they get Caleb Williams next year, this team's going to draft Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, to me, he does have a smaller frame. I believe he's like 5'9", 175 or something like that. Or he might be 5'11", 175. He's a smaller receiver, right? Smaller frame, but he is a shifty route runner. Probably the best in the class. He's very versatile. He can play the slot, outside. He can run out the backfield like a Deebo Samuels if you need him to. But, his playmaking ability, his yard after the catch ability, to me, is the reason why he's the best receiver in the class. And that might be a hot take, but I think Jordan Addison is the best receiver in the class. And he's going to go here to Houston to help out their receiving core, which desperately needs help, as Robert Woods is their best receiver right now. But Jordan Addison, even that, he can go and learn from Robert Woods, who's been a vet. He's been in the league for 10 years, and he can only get better from that.
Yeah, most people think that a receiver right here would have been a pick with or without the quarterback drafted at number 2, like you said. Just somebody to get in that receiver room to add some talent. So great pick for them. And with the 13th pick here, just like the second mock draft, I have Michael Mayer going to Green Bay. Green Bay, they could have drafted a lineman here to get Jordan Love some protection, but I think, like I've said before, I think, the best thing they could do here is to draft Michael Mayer, get a best friend for Jordan Love out on the field. You're drafting George Kittle. I'm kidding, but you're drafting somebody with similar,
that's his comp.
Similar Kittle style of play. Great blocker. He makes contested catches. He's really mobile. He's a big target. He can go up and get those contested balls, like I said. And what more can you ask for? If you're a quarterback stepping into a starting gig for the first time a full-time starting gig for the first time in your career, why not go out and get somebody you can look down, you can dump it off to, or throw it out to when a play breaks down, or when you just need to get some yards, when you need to get the chains moving. And I think Michael Mayer would do that for them. And I think he would benefit Green Bay a lot.
No, I absolutely. Jordan Love, what's a young quarterback's best friend? It's a big body tight end and a reliable tight end. They're going to get that there, as Robert Tonyan, I believe, he signed with Carolina, I believe, or he's elsewhere, but he's not in Green Bay. They need a tight end, and it's not Jermichael Finley. So, why not get your Michael Mayer, who has drawn comps to George Kittle.
Yeah.
Moving over here to the 14th pick, it's a desperate need for Bill Belichick. What's more of a Bill Belichick move than to take an Alabama player, right? Or a 5'9" slot receiver out of West Newbury, Massachusetts, right? I don't know. They're going to take Brian Branch here. Brian Branch is a safety out of Alabama. Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, they're always in communication about their players. Alabama players seem to always end up on the New England Patriots, right? But the Patriots, they need defensive back help. They get that here, and they get it surplus, right? Brian Branch is a guy that can play slot cornerback. He can sometimes play boundary corner, but he is mostly a safety who is a great tackler. He can play in the box, out of the box, rush the quarterback. Brian Branch, I mean, he's probably the most versatile player, one of the most versatile players in the class on the defensive side of the ball. And he's a guy that in our mock drafts has shot up from the end of the first round all the way to a top 14 pick. Yeah. So Brian Branch, to me, fills a lot of needs for that New England secondary. And if it's not an O-lineman here with New England, I believe it is going to be Brian Branch or maybe one of the corners that does fall. But Brian Branch here. Again, I've said his name 100 times. He's one of the most entertaining players in the class, and New England gets an entertaining player here.
Yeah, very entertaining. And Brian Branch, he's probably personally one of my top 3 favorites in this draft, like you mentioned. So, great pick there for New England. And with my 15th pick, let me preface this by saying I know I took Michael Mayer for Green Bay, but I originally thought about taking this player for them. Only reason I didn't is because we all know Aaron Rodgers trade is official, and when Aaron Rodgers comes to town, you're going to do anything to get him. You're going to do anything to
make him happy.
Exactly.
Right.
So with this pick, I'm going to take Jackson Smith and Jigba, JSN. We watch him at Ohio State, being Ohio State fans. Obviously, he was hurt this past season. But this is somebody, the Jets realistically should probably take a lineman here. But there have been reports saying that JSN goes here to the Jets. Now that Aaron Rodgers is there, they're going to try and get him more playmakers. It makes sense. You go and get Aaron Rodgers, somebody to throw the ball to, and you let them work. They'll be really happy. This will be a great thing for his career if he does get drafted here. But JSN, he's somebody who, he's going to primarily play in the slot. He has a smaller frame, but he's I guess a savvy route runner. He's somebody who can he can get you a lot of yards after the catch, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to get him the ball in the slot on those, maybe those short slants or those, 3-yard outs or whatever you want to whatever you want to get him the ball on. You get him to him and you let him work. You let him move the chains. You can get creative at getting him the ball. You have other weapons there, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. You have a stacked offense if you draft JSN. You just be adding another playmaker, another somebody you can get the ball to and move the chains, and that'll make Aaron Rodgers really happy, considering where he just came out of in Green Bay, where he felt like he didn't really have the talent there to win him games.
I will say that just with Mekhi Becton's injury concerns, I would like to see the Jets take a tackle here, an offensive lineman, but let's just say if JSN ends up here. If he ends up here, he's going to immediately take that slot role. And he's replacing Elijah Moore, who already JSN is better than Elijah Moore, as unfortunately we have to say that as Browns fans. But Elijah Moore is with the Browns now, so they need a slot receiver. Get the best one in the class, someone who's a great route runner. And, now when you have Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, who could take a big leap this year, as well as JSN. And plus, we all know Aaron Rodgers in his older age, he loves his safety blankets. Aaron Jones has got a lot of receiving work the last couple years, and if it's not Breece Hall, it's going to be JSN here in the slot. Great pick, I guess, for maybe the best player available here for the New York Jets. But moving over here to the 16th pick, where I have the Washington Commanders. A lot of questions at their quarterback position, but it seems like they're comfortable and they're willing to roll out with Sam Howell next year. And again, I said, what's a young quarterback's best friend? It's a big body and a reliable tight end. They're going to go out there and they're going to get arguably the best one in the class. They're going to get Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, someone who made Desmond Riser, the quarterback of Utah, look somewhat decent, right? In that week 1 of the season, I've mentioned it a bunch of times, but when Utah played Florida, Dalton Kincaid had like 10 receptions of the quarterback's 14 completions, and he had 2 or 3 touchdowns. He makes all those contested catches that you're like, you almost get frustrated with. It's like, man, he came down with that, right? But, Dalton Kincaid, one of the most explosive tight end athletes in the class, maybe the most explosive athlete at the tight end position in this class. But I guess the only thing he's going to have to become a better run blocker. But at the same time, who's a good run blocker on this in this tight end room for Washington? Logan Thomas, right? So in the run packages, have Logan Thomas in there. In the pass packages, you can have both of them, right? As both of them can catch the ball, make some plays. But Dalton Kincaid here, whether if it's Sam Howell this year, or if it's Caleb Williams next year, you're going to give your quarterback a big body, reliable tight end for years to come.
Yeah, great pick there for Dalton Kincaid. I'm sorry, for the
right?
Commanders. But with the 17th pick, I have the Steelers taking Paris Johnson. There's been mock drafts out there with Paris Johnson going as high as 3 to the Cardinals. Or I mean, obviously, like the team I just had, which is the Jets. But I think Paris Johnson goes here, or I have him going here, 17 to the Steelers in this mock draft. Somebody who can get out there and protect Kenny Pickett. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. It feels like you say that about all the linemen that have been drafted so far. But I mean, this is somebody who's, I mean, he has a good anchor in pass protection. That's what he's going to do. He's going to get Kenny Pickett some time, so he's not getting concussions left and right. He moves laterally really well. He can get out of small spaces. He can literally just take some of the best pass rushers if he's in the right spot. He can take the best pass rushers and kind of just neutralize them some plays. He's that strong. He's that mobile. He's that athletic. I think this would be a great pick here for the Steelers. Like I said, somebody to protect your young quarterback and let you get time to throw it to your playmakers out there.
As a fantasy football player, I'm someone who fell into the trap of drafting Najee Harris last year in one league, and due to that awful O-line, Najee struggled to be relevant fantasy-wise, right? So getting an offensive line here, especially Paris Johnson, who could play on the right side, left side, that's my dream for drafting a player like Najee Harris in the future. But moving over here to number 18, Nolan Smith, linebacker or edge here out of Georgia. But he's going to go to the Detroit Lions, who in this draft already get Christian Gonzalez. So two key defensive pieces here for Dan Campbell and that Lions defense. But Nolan Smith, he's a guy that I see Hassan Reddick in him. He plays both the run and the pass elite, in my opinion, and he's just one of the most interesting prospects in this class because he doesn't have a set position, and you can play him pretty much anywhere, right? In the front seven on the defensive side, he could play some of the middle linebacker, he could play outside edge, right? Maybe not D tackle, a bit small there, but he could play on the outside of the front seven. We'll put it that way. But Nolan Smith, he's a dynamic athlete. He's going to go here to Dan Campbell as they're bolstering up that defense, and a Nolan Smith, Aiden Hutchinson edge that they're setting there in Detroit with Gonzalez on the outside and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Detroit's going to be a very dangerous team, one of the most compelling teams for sure next year.
Yeah, Detroit definitely, especially with this draft coming up, they have a lot of chances to be even, to get even more relevant, to have an even more talented team. Obviously, we know about the unfortunate suspensions, the betting they had going on.
Jameson Williams.
But I mean, they can make up for it in this draft. They can, it's 6 games out of 17, so, it's not the end of the world. Fortunately, he didn't get caught for the whole season, so... good pick there for Detroit. And with the 19th pick, I have Drew Sanders being drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this is somebody who's unique because he has the unique ability to play linebacker, or you can line him up at safety. And I know that sounds kind of crazy considering, the drastic difference in those two. But this is somebody who he can cover tight ends and he can cover running backs out of the defensive backfield. This is somebody who he can play. He's really good in zone. This is somebody he can drop back there. He can, like I said, he can cover the middle either at safety, or he can explode and attack the quarterback on pass rushes. He has really good tracking ability. This is somebody who can chase down somebody who's making a big play. He has that speed. He has that size. This is I think the Buccaneers draft Drew Sanders here as they're getting a little bit older on that defensive side, kind of fill in some voids because he is so unique and versatile. You can kind of put him in different places. And I think that's the pick here.
Yeah, at number 20 here, well, I will say this quickly. Drew Sanders went from not making either of our mock drafts to going number 19. So definitely the biggest jump out of any player in probably all 3 of these mock drafts, right?
Yeah.
But Drew Sanders, shout out to him. Super versatile. But moving over to number 20, where the Seahawks, they've been linked to draft a receiver. Whatever the best receiver is, they're saying that they're going to take at number 20. And in my mind, that's going to be Zay Flowers. Steve Smith, I've said it before, he called out that Cooper Kupp year, where Cooper Kupp was a projected 4th or 5th round receiver in a class that had other star receivers. He said Cooper Kupp was going to be the best receiver in the class. People called him crazy. And now look where we're at here in 2023. Cooper Kupp is a top 5, top 6 receiver that we have in the league today. In this class, he called out Zay Flowers. He said Zay Flowers is the best receiver in this class. I will say, great route runner. In Steve Smith's eyes, it says he reminds him of Tyler Lockett. So coincidentally, I have him going here to replace Tyler Lockett in Seattle, as Lockett is 31. But that's going to set up a dynamic receiving core for Geno Smith, who's going to try and keep the production the same, or maybe even he takes a step up than Geno Smith did last year, right? But with a receiving core of DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, and Tyler Lockett, with a returning Ken Walker, Seattle might be cooking up a dangerous offense there in Seattle. But they get Zay Flowers here, maybe the best receiver in the class.
Yeah. And with that being said, with the 21st pick, the Miami Dolphins are taking Tom Brady. I'm just
and Sean Payton?
Actually, we're not going to give them either one of those two players, but we'll take away their first-round pick. Good day to be a Dolphins fan.
Well, a great day to be a Dolphins fan is you don't have a first-round pick because you want to create the Avengers. Moving over here to the 22nd pick, I'm going to have the Chargers. There's a lot of questions circulating about Austin Eckler, his future with the team. Is he going to be there after next season, which is the last year of his contract? We don't know. So what they're going to do is the Chargers are going to go out there, and we know they need a receiver, maybe a deep threat, but you can always go in the second round and draft a Jalen Hyatt guy that is just a straight burner. But right here, I think they take Bijan Robinson. No doubt the best running back in this class. He's physical. At the same time, he's fast. I will say he doesn't have the 4.3, 4.4 speed that you love in the like the Saquon Barkleys, the guys that can really burn a whole defense by themselves, right? But Bijan Robinson's very physical. He's a complete running back from day one. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. Great vision. I mean, if you guys haven't watched any film to any player before this draft, watch a Bijan Robinson highlight tape. You're going to be amazed and you're going to love him based off of, I guarantee you, the first 5 highlights. You're going to be like, I want that dude on my team. And even as a Browns fan, I want him on my team, but we have Nick Chubb. But at the same time, I still would love him to replace Kareem Hunt. But Bijan Robinson, he's going to go here to the Chargers to have a dangerous pairing of Eckler and Bijan for 1 year at least. And if Eckler does go part ways, in the future, Bijan is going to be that guy for them for years to come. And if not, if Eckler stays, they're going to have that 1-2 punch for the next 5 years.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he can summon the ghost of LT and really be dynamic, be generational there for the Chargers. But with the 23rd pick, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking a corner, Deonte Banks. It could come as a little bit of a surprise. I could have taken a wide receiver here, but there are rumors saying that, reportedly that the Ravens are close to trading for DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm going to say that, DeAndre Hopkins gets traded tonight, which is why I have them taking Deonte Banks. No need to go take another receiver when you're getting, a top 3 receiver in the game. So Deonte Banks, I said it last time, he's a physical corner. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. Handsy. He gets a little bit too handsy sometimes, but I feel like you need that aggression from your corners. This is somebody who only had crazy stat here, only 1 missed tackle in the entirety of last season. He plays boundary to boundary. He has good speed out there on the outside, and he's a good man coverage corner. He has a great length to play man coverage, and I think he can make an immediate impact on this Baltimore defense. Especially with them getting stacking their offense up, or at least getting receivers to help out Lamar. Saying Lamar doesn't get traded, I think Deonte Banks can start helping their defense, helping a good defense become even better. So.
Right. I mean, pairing him with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters in that defensive backfield, or at least defensive back room, dangerous for the Ravens. And I hate to admit that as a Browns fan. But moving over here to pick 24, as I have the Vikings. They lost Dalvin Tomlinson this offseason. So what are we going to do, right, as the Dolphins or as the Vikings? I can see them taking a receiver here. I can see them taking a cornerback. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to take Kalai Kancey, interior defensive lineman out of Pitt, a guy that has been training with Aaron Donald for 3 or 4 years now. So they train all the time. They're both, Aaron Donald and Kancey are both out of Pitt. Some would say that Kancey reminds them a lot of Aaron Donald, and that is their pro comp for him. And if he is anything of Aaron Donald, he is the pick of the draft at 24. But Kalai Kancey, he's going to fill a big need for Minnesota in the middle, and hopefully that run defense doesn't fall off too much. But Kalai Kancey can help that replace the big Dalvin Tomlinson that took up two offensive linemen every single play. But Kancey's very dynamic. He's undersized, but so is Aaron Donald, and that's why they ironically have that pro comp for him. It also helps that they train all the time. And even at the end of the day, if he's able to pick maybe the best defensive player of all time's brain just about certain coverages and different plays of the offense, right? Different things to look out for. It's going to make Calijah Kancey that much better, picking off of Aaron Donald's brain. But he goes here at 24 to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, and like you said, that's a good pick there to fill the void of Dalvin Tomlinson. What more can you say? And with pick 25, I have Joey Porter Jr. being drafted by the Jags. He just conveniently falls down to number 25 for the Jags. I remember the first time we did this mock draft. There really wasn't anybody left for the Jags to take for the defensive secondary, I should say. And then last draft we had them trade up to take Brian Branch. This draft, Joey Porter Jr. he falls down here, number 25, to a team that desperately needs help in their defensive secondary. I think this is be a really good pick because this is somebody who can play man coverage just like Deonte Banks. But you're probably going to keep him out there to the boundary. But he's really good at high pointing the ball on defense, and that's what you need. Another, somebody who can try and make plays on that defensive side of the ball. But it is crazy considering he's only had one interception in 4 seasons in college. But do not get it twisted. This guy is a baller. He's very competitive. Like I said, he has great length to play the boundary. That's probably where you'll keep him. But this is somebody who desperately needs, who is going to a team that desperately needs his abilities in that defensive secondary.
Moving over here to the Giants pick, and I'm going to have them taking Quentin Johnson for a team that last year their number one receiver was Isaiah Hodgins. No disrespect to Isaiah Hodgins, but he may become better this year. But when Isaiah Hodgins is your only receiver, you need help in that receiver room. So they're going to go out here and draft the receiver with maybe the most potential. Without a doubt, he has the best combo of strength, speed, and size. Quentin Johnson out of TCU. I will say, though, even though he is the 6'3", 6'4" receiver out of TCU, you would think he's this big body receiver that goes up and makes those big jump ball plays like a Mike Williams does at the same size. But Quentin Johnson doesn't. He's 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", but he plays like he's 5'10", if that makes any sense. He's not the guy that you're going to throw a jump ball up to, but instead you're going to throw a little hitch route to him, and he's going to make a crazy play happen after the catch. That's just the type of player that Quentin Johnson is, and I think that any team, to me, if I had to see him with any team, it's the Giants, and I think that just makes the most sense here as I've had it there. I think all of the mock drafts, or at least the last 2, Quentin Johnson here goes to the New York Giants.
Yeah, good pick there for New York. Like you said, this is somebody they need to take, or this is somebody they should definitely take. Fits their needs. At pick 27, I have the Dallas Cowboys taking Cam Smith. I can't remember what team Cam Smith went to last mock draft. I think he went a little bit higher. And we all know that Dallas.
He went to 31. He fell all the way to the Eagles at 31.
Oh, okay, wow. So he goes higher in this mock draft. But this is somebody yet again who didn't even make the first one. And he's up to pick 27. This is a defensive back or corner out of South Carolina. We all know that Dallas will probably want to take a tight end here, but with Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer going earlier in the draft, and with Quentin Johnson and Zay Flowers and pretty much all the receivers in this draft going beforehand, Cam Smith goes here. This is somebody who can help out Trevon Diggs out there in the defensive secondary. We all know they have Stephon Gilmore, but Stephon Gilmore may only be there for 1 year and go to another team. But you could, while he's there, you can make a scary defensive backfield with Cam Smith. We all know about the depleted roster, depleted back secondary they had last year. This is a pick to get them more bodies and more talent back there in case of injuries. In case they need to make a makeshift lineup. Who knows? Maybe he outplays himself this year, and he just becomes that guy. But this is somebody that they take to fill a roster need, to fill up a position need, while also acquiring talent there.
Moving over to pick 28. For the Buffalo Bills, I know it's a pick. You see it. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But at this point, at the end of the first round, you take best player available, if I can talk, as a team that is in Super Bowl contention. You take best player available. I thought of the idea of maybe a Jamar Gibbs here out of Alabama, maybe an interior offensive lineman. But Myles Murphy, at the end of the day, a guy who's quick, he's strong, good size to him. Coming out of the draft, 6'4", 6'5". off the edge for Clemson there. But, he has a high motor. I will say he is first move dependent. So if that first move he has, that first attack, he kind of gets shut down, right? So you could see that happening in the NFL. But Myles Murphy, I mean, I'm sure with Von Miller there, I'm sure with Greg Rousseau there in Buffalo, they can help out Myles Murphy and make him more dynamic on that edge. But at this point, for a guy that some people have going top 8, he falls all the way to 28 in our mock draft, and Buffalo gets best player available.
And with pick 29, I have Joe Tippmann going to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a pick. I can't remember who we've had going here. I think Mazi Smith has went here both times. So Joe Tippmann goes here. The Bengals will be looking to add another offensive lineman after signing Orlando Brown Jr. this offseason to that contract. He's going to play more so the interior, probably a guard spot, but this is somebody who can pick up those blitzes, who can recognize the blitzes, pick somebody up. He's a big body. He's a really good run blocker. And if you recall, this Cincinnati team, they had the ball, I want to say, on like their own 12 versus Kansas City. In the first play they have with 3 minutes left, so it wasn't a lot of time. They get blitzed and Joe Burrow gets sacked and they lose yards and ultimately end up punting the ball to Pat Mahomes. We know the rest of the story. Tries to run out of bounds, gets hit, and they make the field goal. But this will be a good pickup for them because they not only do they get Orlando Brown to run their left tackle, but they get Joe Tippmann to run a guard position on either side. Like I said, he's a good run blocker, help Joe Mixon in that running back field back there. But he can also pass protect and pick up those blitzes for Joe Burrow, and I know he will be excited to help a generational QB back there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going to go on with Joe Mixon with his legal stuff that's going on right now, but if he's there, Joe Tippmann's going to be a great pickup for them. If he's there or not, right? Joe Tippmann can run block, pass block. We know all those boys out of Wisconsin know how to block. Same thing with the Northwestern, but good pickup there. Protect your franchise guy. In my opinion, second best player in the league, only behind Pat Majesus. Moving over here to the 30th pick, Mazi Smith, a guy that has went to the Bengals every single time. He falls one spot here to the Saints, and he's a disruptor up the middle. A guy out of Michigan who killed Ohio State's run game in that when we played in the regular season. But Mazi Smith, he's a disruptor up the middle. His athleticism and his raw power has drawn a lot of buzz around the league, and he might go higher than this. I think we've underrated him maybe in the draft process, but I think right here just makes the most sense for a Saints team that lost Marcus Davenport, for a team that lost other edge pieces. They build a little bit of that D-line back up here with Mazi Smith.
Yeah, and with pick 31, I have maybe a little bit of a surprising pick here. I have the Eagles taking Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, we know their connection to Bijan Robinson to have the draft later today. But, say they don't take Bijan Robinson at 10 and they wait till 31, saying Bijan goes, I think Jahmyr Gibbs would still be a really good pick, really good quality pick for an Eagles team that really doesn't have a lot of holes. Now, this is somebody who's an elite pass catcher out of the backfield. He ran a 4.3 40. This is somebody who he has that speed and he gets there very quickly. He can still play, even though he's only 5'9", about 200 pounds. He can play through contact and he has really good balance for that size and with that speed. And he's really shifty. I think this is somebody who can help open up that Eagles offense even more. Help that rotation out in the running back field for Philadelphia. And if you have somebody as fast as Jahmyr Gibbs that you can run a read option to, and you also have Jalen Hurts at your quarterback, with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown out there at the receiver positions, this is a dangerous and scary offense. Adding another potentially elite running back. This is somebody who, he's compared to Christian McCaffrey, and it's not for, no reason. So
right. Jahmyr Gibbs, we'll say this. Miles Sanders, we know, did leave Philadelphia, and he went to Carolina. So if you didn't know that, now you know. Miles Sanders is not going to be an Eagle next year. So right now, they're relying on Boston Scott to be their guy next year. And no disrespect to Boston Scott, but unless they're playing the Giants, he's not scoring touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs is the only guy that could rival Bijan for the best back in the class. And like you said, he does have that top-end speed. And for a guy like Jalen Hurts, who you're going to rely to, for the majority of the game, pass the ball because they do have Goddard, Smith, A.J. Brown. But you need that running back that for the Philly loves to run the ball. We'll say that.
Yeah.
They did last year at least, and you need that guy that can take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts. Jahmyr Gibbs, with his playmaking ability, does just that. 32. No surprise here. We've had them taking a tackle, and I think it's been a different tackle every single time. Or at least I think one time we maybe had the Chiefs taking a pass rusher. Regardless, they're going to take Broderick Jones here, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Some people would say the best tackle in the class, but he can play the left side or the right side. As the Chiefs, they lost Orlando Brown, but they brought in another tackle, and they keep bolstering up this offensive line. But go out there and let's get a younger piece. Let's go get Broderick Jones on the right side of that offensive line to protect Pat Mahomes. I think there's plenty of receiving options. Maybe if they wanted to go receiver here or Jahmyr Gibbs, they've been linked to in this draft process. But in this case, Zay Flowers and the Jordan Addisons and the Jahmyr Gibbs of the world that the Chiefs are linked to, they're gone in this scenario, right? And with no trades, they're stuck here. They take an offensive tackle who, why not protect Pat Mahomes, who missed some time last year because of an injury. But now we move forward, as that is your 32 mock drafts, right? Your 30, well, I guess 31 picks, as Tom Brady doesn't count to the Dolphins. But I'm going to ask you, there's 4 questions here. This is off the top. I'm going to throw them out there, and just give me your best answer. Who do you believe is going to be the best player in the class, or who do you think is the best player in the class as of today?
Best player, I probably have to go with Will Anderson.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I think Will Anderson, not only is he probably the safest pick as far as that question is concerned, because he does play defensive end. I think he has, I think his potential is off the charts. You mentioned it. He's just somebody who could be a top 10 pass rusher for the next 10 years. He is the best prospect in the draft, obviously that's not what the Panthers aren't going to take him 1, but this is somebody who, probably goes 1 in most other drafts, with another team taking that pick. Will Anderson, I think, is the best player in the draft.
I think, for as much as I hyped him up, I better say he's the best player in the class with the high hopes that I have for a player like him. And I think just going to a situation with DeMeco Ryans and that defensive mind and coaching staff there in Houston, it's only going to help him, maybe elevate him higher than we think he could be. And that's saying a lot, right? As we think he could be a top 10, top 5 pass rusher for years to come. But who is your favorite player in the class? I'll start here to give you a second if you want to think about it. But my 2 favorite players in this class is, well, one, Bijan Robinson. I've talked about him. Now, I'm not going to say fantasized about him in these drafts, right? I'm not going to say that. But again, I'm going to tell you guys again, if you guys have watched 0 draft highlights or anything, even if you're a non-football fan and you're for some reason here at 57 minutes in, watch some Bijan Robinson highlights. I'm telling you, when you watch them, the first 5 highlights, I guarantee you're going to be like, I want him on my team. And in most cases, he might be a top 5 running back in the league his first year. For Bijan Robinson, in the right situation, he could be just that. But for me, just based off of what we've seen and what we know, Bijan, it's one of my favorite players. Another guy is Jordan Addison, receiver out of USC. I've had him going as high as 12 in these mock drafts to Houston. And Jordan Addison, to me, best receiver in the class. It's a lot of questions, whether if it's JSN or Quentin Johnson or Zay Flowers. I think it's Jordan Addison, as to me, he's Calvin Ridley. And that's what I see.
Yeah, and my favorite player, I'd probably have to go with Brian Branch. I just like the way he plays. I like his style of play. I really pushed for the Jags to trade up for him in the last mock draft we did, so I could take him. Because I personally like him that much, and I do like what the Jags are building there in Jacksonville. But if I had to pick a favorite, I think I'm taking Brian Branch.
Who do you think will have the best career out of all these players? It could be a second-round pick. You can come out here and say Hendon Hooker is going to have the best career. Who do you think is going to be, when we look back at this draft, we're going to say that is the best player in the class?
So this is actually kind of crazy.
But I'll say most accomplished.
I said JSN, and I only said that because if he gets drafted by the Jets, he's going somewhere where he has an all-time great quarterback there. I think JSN, in the projection that he'll be able to show off right away with Aaron Rodgers there in New York. I think, we'll be able to see, this guy's had a really solid career. Obviously, maybe the potential isn't there, or maybe the potential for the best career isn't there. But I think JSN might be a sleeper when it comes to the best career. Saying that he goes to the Jets like he did, like I had him going in this mock draft. I think he could have the best career.
For me, it's Bryce Young. For me, a guy that, it's the basic pick, I know, but I've been saying all offseason, I've said it since probably week 2 or 3 of last season. This guy's the number 1 pick. I don't care if he wins Heisman or not. He's the number 1 pick in this draft. And Bryce Young, to me, going to a situation like Carolina where they've took their offseason and they've built it around a rookie quarterback, bringing in Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, a couple other receiving options, as well as a big tight end. They've spent their offseason building this defense and this offense around a rookie quarterback, and that already shows you they're committed to Bryce Young, or what we thought was C.J. Stroud. But Bryce Young, especially in a division where the Bucs are older, the Saints are older, Atlanta, they're building something special there, but we're not so sure yet on Desmond Ridder. For a team like the Panthers to get a guy like Bryce Young, I think in 4 years we're going to be like, Bryce Young's the best player in the class, or at least the most accomplished. As if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, he's going to have a bunch of division titles to his name.
Yeah,
I will ask you, last question here. Who do you believe is the bust of the class? A guy that, is drafted high and he just underperforms, or in your estimate, whatever it is that you think is a bust, who do you think is the bust of this class?
I'd probably say Will Levis. I'd say Will Levis because this is somebody like you mentioned before. He had a better junior year than senior year in college, and we'd probably be looking at him different, like you said, if it was his last year. But because he did stay that extra year, he didn't do anything special at Kentucky this year. He does have all those questions about his ball security, decision making, basically, pretty much everything outside of his physical talent and his arm strength. I think Will Levis will probably be the bust of the class, especially going to a situation where you're either going to sit behind Ryan Tannehill or you're going to battle Malik Willis, who already proved that he probably won't be really good in the NFL. Will Levis is probably my bust of the class.
Especially if he goes to Tennessee in a situation there where they have no receiving options. It's going to be, we don't know the future of Derrick Henry. Could he be traded to the Eagles tonight? We don't know, right? But for me, as a Gators fan, this hurts. But if this player doesn't land in the right situation, Anthony Richardson will be the bust of this draft class. If he goes to a situation, let's say, like Tennessee, and he's thrown into the fire, he's starting from week 1, Anthony Richardson will not survive in the NFL. This is something that I might look back on in even 6 months and be like, man, I was stupid for that set. But for what I know as him as a Gator, he is not ready for the NFL yet, and I think he needs to sit at least half the season, or at least a full season, in my opinion. If he doesn't get that and he's going to a situation where he's thrown into the fire, Anthony Richardson will be a bust, and he will be one of those guys like, we wasted a top 10 pick on a guy who is out of the league in 4 years. Anthony Richardson, as a Gators fan, look, I hope he is the best player in this draft. I hope he's the best player of all time. But Anthony Richardson, I don't believe he's ready, and if he's not in the right situation, he will underperform, and he'll be out of the league in probably 4 or 5 years. But moving over here, that's going to do it for today's show. 3 mock drafts are in the books. Again, we've kind of had 3 of these in the last 5 weeks, but we're not going to have one for a year. Maybe do the NBA. We might run through the lottery of the NBA as we talked about, but
which is exciting. There is a lot of talent in the lottery this year.
Yeah, so. A lot of talent in the NBA and a lot of guys that could change franchises, right? But the NFL draft's tonight. It's coming up in, I want to say, about 8 or so hours. I'm super excited for the NFL draft. And until Tuesday. I mean, I will say this. We do have 4 episodes coming starting next week. So be on the lookout for TikTok or Instagram. We're going to be dropping some teasers, maybe even let you guys know what we're going to be doing to have 4 episodes a week. Don't worry, we're still going to have these Tuesday and Thursday shows where we cover pretty much anything, but we're adding something new to this channel starting next week, so be on the lookout. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think the crazy thing about it was when we started this draft, we were kind of able to just fly through this draft. I mean, we pretty much knew players and what team's position needs were. It was just a matter of, all right, do we want to change it up a little bit here because we've had this person going here 3 straight times, which was unavoidable sometimes. Like Will Levis going to the Titans just made too much sense 3 straight drafts in a row, or maybe like you said, you wanted to take Bijan at 10, but we decided, hey, we have a better, I wanted to take a offensive lineman for the Jets, but because Aaron Rodgers is officially a Jet now, and there are reports of them saying they're going to, I guess, prioritize JSN in the draft, I was just like, hey, well, I mean, it makes sense from a standpoint if you're getting more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. So this draft, it was fun. able to just kind of fly through it, know the prospects we wanted to take, and I think having us staying even and odd 3 straight drafts really helped that out too, because we were used to the teams we were taking for.
Right. We're getting well versed with the teams that we were potentially changing their futures, right, in these hypothetical scenarios. But again, 3rd mock draft, another great one in the books. As we're an hour in, so if you've made it to this point, thank you, as this is one of the longer ones we've had as of late. But podcast is continuing to grow. So if you guys do want to tell a friend, share the podcast, get it out there, as we are growing, and I believe we are both very talented here on the mic, and it is worth your while. So if you do have the time or the will, go ahead and tell a friend or share with an employee, right? Tell them about the podcast if they're interested to support the channel. But again, another great episode in the books. We can't thank you guys enough for all the support. Until Tuesday, stay happy, stay healthy. We're out.